Good morning and welcome to Prop Till You Drop NFL Prop Bets, Week 16 of the NFL season. And I'd like to welcome Jen Ryan, I got confused here. I apologize. Too many buttons I'm clicking. Jen Ryan, the fantasy football degenerate, and myself, Emil Cadlick, the old man of fantasy. How you doing, Jen?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad. I'm still recovering from the Miami game. I actually couldn't sleep. It was so exciting. I don't know why. It was kind of fun to have an exciting game like that.
It was awesome. It was more than I could have asked for. That's for sure. I can't believe we're that was what, day 3 of 4 days of football. It felt really nice.
I'm very confused what day it is. Last night I thought it was Sunday night. So I got to start doing target data tomorrow. I'm like, wait, it's Saturday. Of course, with all the Christmas, it adds to the confusion of what day it is.
It sure does. It sure does. But
all right, let's see if I can't flip. Oh, hey, I did something right. I flipped to the beginning of the view graphs. We have quarterbacks. Whoops.
Oh, you still there?
Yep, go ahead.
Yep, we're starting with Patrick Mahomes passing yards, 330.5 yards. Normally somebody would look at this line and say that's a little rich, but it's really not for Mahomes. Last week was just the second time in his past 7 that he didn't throw for at least 331 yards. I'm definitely going back to this well. This prop is going to hit more times than it isn't for Mahomes, averaging almost 300 yards per game. Again, for any other quarterback, this is a lot. For him, at home against the Falcons in a 52.5-point game, I really, really like it. Now, a lot of the pro models actually have the under in this game. That's where the sharp money and the big money is coming in on, but I do not care. I like the over, and I like at least 331 passing yards for Patrick Mahomes.
Woo! That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yep, he's been doing it. So that's interesting that the pro models are going against that.
Yeah, they're going against the points in the game, which I just don't get. I mean, the Falcons put up a ton of points. The Chiefs put up a ton of points. I am not a professional bettor. This is a hobby, so don't take my word for it. But with all that said, I still really like the line.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's had some weird games, obviously, but he's gotten over 330 bunch of times this year. So, Atlanta's defense has been better. Of course, it kind of had to be better because their defense was horrible. So, I forgot to put our little faces up, so I obviously messed something up. Oh, here we are. Just a second. There we are. I feel so much better. No, I am not doing well this morning. I've given myself an F+, but there is a plus there so far. So
we'll take it.
We go. Yeah.
Here's someone we wouldn't mind getting an F+ today. Roethlisberger. We just need him to throw 1 pick. I think a casual football fan could watch 1 quarter of Roethlisberger's recent. Weeks ago, this guy was near the top of the list of candidates for Comeback Player of the Year. And now, just a few weeks later, he's looking like he's wearing down a little bit. He's thrown a pick in 5 straight. 6 total in the last 5 games. And then on the other side of the ball, the Colts defense has 4 picks over that same time span. So I kind of like the converging of those two, and they just need to get Ben one time.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. You did really well last week. What was it? Or the week before with Carr.
Yeah, I think he threw 3 picks in that game. So,
you made sure and got that bet right.
We got a little lucky there, but yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, that's an interesting.
No, not at all. I mean, I feel like any quarterback can just throw a pick in a game, of course, right? It's just it only takes one, and this used to be. I mean, every week we were betting Carson Wentz to throw a pick, and it was hitting. It was hitting every single week, and now, like I said, you got Ben. I mean, he's got a pick in 5 straight. So if we believe that trend continues. Looks good, and again, the matchup. I mean, the Colts are I think top 3 in interceptions. So wow. We like.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and then and now we have a gunslinger who we're going to quietly look at his legs here. We have an Aaron Rodgers rushing prop of over 7.5. Again, this feels incredibly low. Now it's interesting because Tannehill's in this game. And we usually bet the Tannehill rushing props. But, sometimes when I zig too much, I like to zag, and I'm actually going to zag towards the other quarterback. I mean, 8 rushing yards for Rodgers, that's honestly nothing for him. He's done so in 5 of his past 8. I think you have to love this prop. He's a quarterback. He's not afraid to run the ball. If he sees the opening, he goes for it. He has at least 4 rushing attempts in his past 3 games. He's coming off of 26 rushing yards last week. 8 yards, it just feels easy. It really does.
That looks like a fun one. 7.5. It looks so funny.
Right? It's a first down.
Remember him 4, 5, 6 years ago when he was in his 30s. He used to run a lot.
Yeah, and, I think we talked about it with Baker a little bit last week. He's like a mobile guy. Usually side to side, he likes to throw on the run a lot. But Rodgers, he's very good at that pump fake, tucking it, run, slide. Just need 8 yards. It's not a lot.
It's a beauty.
Love it. And then another rushing quarterback, Jalen Hurts, rushing attempts over 9.5 at even money. I really like this. This is hit 2 weeks in a row. He's had 11 and 18 attempts respectively. 10 against the Cowboys in a division game, a must-win for both teams. It just sort of feels like a low line here. There should be a fair amount of scoring in this one. The line's at 50. The sharp money's on the under, kind of like that Chiefs game. But again, I don't care. Even if it comes in under and there's 48 points in this game, you're still going to have a lot of offense. Hurts is a mobile guy. He really is like a young Michael Vick out there. Cowboy fans wishes they would go back to Wentz, but I'm expecting the rookie to have a very, very easy time running on the Cowboys today, and I don't think 10 attempts is out of the question.
I love this time of the year where, I don't know if Dallas is still in mathematically, I don't know, but
they are.
Philadelphia has to win, running quarterback. He's gotten over this number the last 2 weeks. Of course, he's only really played 2 weeks full-time or starting. So, yep, love it.
Yeah, and, Dallas isn't afraid to blitz either. So when you have these rushing quarterbacks on the blitz, they're always a threat to run. And then for this next one, I put contrarian with a question mark, only because everybody loves Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert. I mean, Herbert, he's awesome. He is a gunslinger. He's worth the top 5 pick they took on him. But I almost wonder if Drew Lock can throw more touchdowns than him today. And at plus 135, I really like it. It's a long shot, but it's not like this big long shot. Just 2 weeks ago, Lock threw for 4 touchdowns against Carolina. So we're gonna want something similar to that today. But this is a fun one. I do think it's more along the lines of, this could happen, rather than, this is going to happen. But I still like it.
It is kind of an interesting, look, a tail just went by there.
That's my cat, not the dog.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting idea because, the Chargers, have given up touchdowns, and Locke likes to throw a lot of things. He likes to throw interceptions. He likes to fumble the ball, but he also throws touchdowns. So that's really an interesting bet, plus 135.
We like it.
All right, off to running backs. Let's see if I can hit the right button here to get to running backs. I overshot running backs. There we are.
And, sticking with this game, Melvin Gordon, total rushing and receiving over 92.5. Phillip Lindsay's out. Not overly concerned about Royce Freeman here. He's questionable, but also the matchup. But Gordon's heading home. I mean, this is his former team. It didn't end ugly between them, but it wasn't very pretty either. If you remember, Gordon kind of went with this holdout, and the Chargers were like, fine, hold out. We don't care. We're not going to pay you. And then ultimately that led to him becoming a Bronco this year. In his past 2, Gordon's combined for at least 80 total yards, so we're asking for just 13 more today against his former team, which trots out a middle-of-the-road defense. It's averaging 104 total yards to running backs per game. All those statistics, plus, I'm like such a sucker for a narrative. I just think there's a little extra incentive for Melvin Gordon to show his former team that you probably shouldn't have given up on me.
And he only had 11 rushes last week and 13 the week before against Carolina. So, with Lindsey out, like you said, he doesn't need a whole lot more to get to 92. Especially he's going to catch a few balls also.
That's the hope here. That's the hope.
That sounds good.
And I love these all-purpose props for backs that don't have a ton of competition in the backfield. And I think the same logic applies to Brown. And I do also think I spelled his name wrong, and I'm a stickler for grammar, so shame on me.
I wouldn't have noticed. I'm a dyslexic electrical engineer, so it looks good to me.
Wait, we'll leave it. But yeah, Cam Akers won't be playing in this game. So, of course, Darrell Henderson Jr. is still there. But 32.5, I mean, that seems awfully low for a back with a defined role in a high-octane offense. These teams just played each other back in Week 10, and Brown combined for 51 total yards. And this was just a few weeks ago. Granted, he hasn't cracked 28 total yards since, but opportunity is rising with Akers on the sideline. Recent history isn't on Brown's side, but the low line, the opportunity, the matchup, the projected points in this game, I'm rolling the dice on Brown this week.
Yeah, you got to expect him to get a lot more. He's done, like you said, not much at all. Of course, with Akers, Cam Akers out, that's going to help. He could get at the goal line, which doesn't give him a lot of yardage, but yeah, that's an interesting bet. And I think that is how you spell Malcolm, Malcolm.
Perfect.
And I'm almost 100% that's how you spell Brown, so I'm happy.
Brown I got. I'll put M Brown next time. But yeah, I mean, just 33 yards again. I'm like, oh, that's easy. I could do that. So we'll see. We'll see how that.
With one of the three-headed monsters out, you can't really expect. Well, I guess you could. I mean, Henderson can end up getting 90% of the carries, but I think it's a good one. It's fun when you look at his last 4 games or 3 games and he hasn't done that. That's the scary part about it. But things are changed, and sometimes you got to forecast and go with it.
Sure, and again, it's combined. So if he's got one big catch-ish, we should look good there. This next one kind of feels like a cheat code almost. We've got Derrick Henry, total rushing yards over 104.5. Shockingly, this is low for him. The key to this game is going to be keeping the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands for as long as possible. And when you have a guy like Henry, you can do that. Again, I think 104.5 is low. I think his attempts at 22.5 is low. He's obviously featured every week in this offense. I just think he could be featured a little bit more heavily if you can even wrap your head around that concept. Again, to try to keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. The only way to keep pace with the Packers in this game is going to be to control the clock.
That's a good point. And obviously he has gotten over 104.5 yards a handful of times already this year.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for him.
And gone over 200 twice. That's crazy.
It's going to be cold in Lambeau, too. It always is. So I'm just expecting heavy running in this game. And then there's my Dallas Cowboys. Can't get through a show without talking about them. There's a reason I like Zeke to score here. I think if there's any GM in football that listens to the noise or chatter, it's obviously my man Jerry Jones. He has his finger on the pulse. He pays attention. A lot of these GMs are like, we don't listen to the outside noise. That's all Jerry Jones does. I'm sure he saw the chatter last week about Pollard and should Dallas trade Zeke. Zeke is Jerry's baby. I mean, he loves this guy. He's not going anywhere. These are 2 totally different running backs, by the way. Regardless, after missing last week, his first game he's missed because of injury. I'm just expecting a big, heavy dose of Zeke. I think he's going to punch one in, no problem in this game. It's a very important game in an otherwise meaningless sort of season. I'm sort of going back to, you're going to have a lot of people who saw Pollard and saw the highlights and listened to the commentators on TV and think that Ezekiel Elliott is dead, and at minus 112, it's close, pretty close to even money for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I like it. He hasn't scored a lot this year, but like you said, it's a big emotional game because you've got a rivalry even though you're out of it. So that's an interesting play.
Not out of it. Dallas Cowboys are still alive. Shockingly, the Raiders managed to get knocked out of playoff contention before the Dallas Cowboys did, but still alive, shockingly.
Sorry about that. I hadn't been paying attention.
Isn't it amazing that one of these teams from the NFC East is going to get a home playoff game? I mean, it's like embarrassing.
It's kind of fun to watch this, just, to see if there's going to be a team below 500 making the playoffs. And like you said, getting a home game, one home game.
I mean, we had those just a couple years ago. You had those 7-9 Seahawks get in. So,
Yeah, it's already happened once.
It's not impossible, and really it's probable given the state of the division currently.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's our last bet. So I put here The Book Isn't Stupid because we love our Sugar House bets. That's the book we use, and they are so sharp. They are not giving a single running back prop outside of touchdowns in the Cleveland Browns and Jet game. I'm sure by now everybody knows the Cleveland Browns don't have like a single wide receiver playing in this game. They're playing against the Jets, expecting a ton of running. I think the book knows if they give any sort of prop on either Chubb or Kareem Hunt, they're just going to get crushed. So they're only giving touchdown bets. Him to score a touchdown is like minus 150. It's kind of boring. Plus 475. I really like him to score first. If the Browns get to start off with the ball, now, oddly enough, the Jets have scored, I think, on every single opening possession that they've had this season. They just can't seem to win football games. So we need the Browns to get the ball first. The Browns get the ball first. They get down in the red zone. I think the odds that Chubb gets the looks at the goal line are just, through the roof. So why not bet him to score first here? It's just a scratch-off.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun bet. A real fun bet. And a crazy game. You got Marvin Hall is gonna be playing for Cleveland, and he got cut by Detroit a week or two ago. He hadn't even played for Cleveland yet, and he's going to be out there doing something. But obviously, they're going to be running the ball as much as they can, and if they can run the ball, they'll continue to run the ball. It'll be quite interesting. They'll probably throw some tight ends too, but Nick Chubb, that's a fun bet right there.
Just need him to score first.
Beautiful. All right, let's see if I can go off to the wide receivers. Bingo. Oh, look at there. I accidentally somehow hit the little button twice. Don't you love it? There we are.
It happens. So kicking it off with Michael Pittman Jr., total receiving yards, 42.5. I think he's a receiver who just doesn't get enough respect. I mean, I certainly haven't given him a lot of respect on this show. This is the first time we're talking about him. But he's he's got a good floor. I mean, albeit a capped ceiling, but he's got a pretty good floor. Consistent, I like for him to hit 42.5. He does average less than this over his past 4, just about 34 yards per game. But this game's going to require all hands on deck. It's a big game. It's close to a pick-em. The Colts are only favored by a half a point. And like I said, all hands on deck. Pittman is a pair of those hands. Steelers are in a 2-game rut. Indy really needs to capitalize here. It's a tough road matchup. But Pittman's really going to need to step up and perform. And 43 yards for him isn't really asking for much. It's going to help out the Colts, and it's certainly going to help out our bankroll if it hits.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like you said, he didn't hit that against Houston, but they probably, I can't remember what happened. They probably ran like crazy in that game. And
yeah, and those running backs are so involved in the passing game, too, that it certainly takes away from the receivers. But, I mean, we're in Week 16 here, Emil. These props, they just get thinner and thinner every single week.
Huge game for both teams.
Enormous game. And Pitt really losing 2 in a row, they have to win this game. So we almost kind of hope that Pitt gets out to a little bit of a lead here so that Phillip Rivers is playing from behind and we're throwing the ball.
That's what we think about here at Fantasy Football and Prop Bets.
Yes, we do.
Game whatever it's called, game flow.
Yep, that's what we need. And then, Jerry Jeudy down here, plus 120 for 3.5 receptions. We talked about Drew Lock having a big game earlier, and, if Drew Lock's going to have a big game, stands to reason his receivers are going to have a big game too. 4 catches really isn't a lot. Now, most people are going to be thinking about the Melvin revenge game that we talked about earlier, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, and you could potentially forget about Judy, and it's easy to forget about him. I mean, he hasn't had 4 catches since back in Week 10. But I do think that changes this week. This guy was the 15th overall pick. We'd like to see him put up some wide receiver 1 numbers in this game. 4 catches. We're not asking for a lot, Jerry. Just give us 4.
Yeah, I've incredible talent. It's been frustrated the last few weeks. I'm hoping for you too. I mean, this is the Chargers aren't the greatest defense. This could definitely happen, and like you said, it has not happened for several weeks. So we're kind of predicting the future in a short term. That it's not a bad idea at all. I love that guy. He's got some great talent.
So good, and I think the key is get him involved early, right? If he comes out 2 catches, in the first quarter, now we're looking pretty good.
That would be nice.
Speaking of a guy who catches everything, Robert Woods. I mean, this guy has been catching at least 6 balls a game since back to his Buffalo days. I mean, he's always been a target guy. He's always converted. He's always been efficient. I feel that 6 catches is nothing for him, and I think the book agrees at minus 152. We're betting this because it feels like a lock. There is no such thing as a lock, of course, and normally you'd say 6 catches, that's a lot, but I mean, once upon a time this was the Julian Edelman bet, and, now it's just a Robert Woods bet. I really feel like there's almost no line that's too high for him in terms of receptions.
Yeah, he's been having an incredible couple of years, actually, and been getting a lot of targets, a lot of catches. This is a nice one. I don't like it being at Seattle. Goff kind of worries me on the road, but huge game. Again, we're in this Week 15, Week 16 time frame that these are very important games, for teams either making the playoffs or getting position in the playoffs as far as home field position. So I like this bet.
Same, and these guys always play each other so close, so it's going to be a good game. And sticking with this game, looking at the other side of the ball, we've got Metcalf, who I truly believe is one of the top 3 receivers in football. He's just been a little bit yo-yo-y as of late. This line has only hit in 4 of his past 8. Just back in Week 10, these 2 teams faced each other, and Metcalf had 28 receiving yards, which is just gross. I'm expecting a ton of points in this game. I think the over at 47.5 smashes. I actually bet the over at 55 in this game this morning. I'm just expecting a big game out of Metcalf today. And I think, I want 100 yards out of him, but the book's given us 70.5.
So you said it was 55 before?
No. It's 47.5. I upped it to 55. I bet over 55 in this game.
Oh, okay. But here it's over 70.5?
70.5 is his receiving line. The total points, I bet over 55.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just expecting a lot of scoring.
I'm a little tired today, so I didn't quite hear that.
Okay. I also,
70.5. Go ahead.
I'm from a part of the country I tend to talk a little fast, so I could slow down a little too.
I'm still tired from Miami last night. I couldn't sleep last night. I had enjoyed that game so much. That's hilarious.
I know. I think I got a sympathy stiff neck for Ryan Fitzpatrick, honestly.
What a crazy guy, yeah. Well, that's an interesting bet. Big game, obviously. 61-43 the last 2 weeks. 80 against the Giants, 177 at Philadelphia, blah, blah, blah. So it's not an obvious bet, but... I like you said, Metcalf is such a great talent. There's a good chance he can do that.
Yeah, it's 50-50, and I'm just, I'm going for it. And then, of course, we have to have our fun bets, too. So I'm calling this one Bear Down because these Bears should just, destroy the Jaguars today. No James Robinson, by the way. I wanted Allen Robinson props. I wanted receiving props for him, and this is all the book would give. A combo prop of Mitchell Trubisky over 250 passing yards and Allen Robinson 80-plus receiving yards. Jaguars are a mess. Again, to mention, Robinson on the other side, not available for this game. They have no shot. I know it sounds crazy to say it with such conviction, but the Jaguars have no shot today. I'm expecting the Browns to steamroll them, and I'm expecting Allen Robinson to be a big part of this. $250 for Trubisky seems a lot easier than Robinson for 80. But still, combined at plus 275, I think it's a fun bet to throw in.
Yeah, that's a very possible bet. I like that. Allen Robinson has been very consistent this year, despite the team being very inconsistent. 80 yards is a lot of yards, but that's a reasonable bet, definitely.
Yeah, and thank God the Jaguars are just so bad. So.
And they've had some close games. They've played some teams tough. But they continue to find a way to lose.
Really.
Pardon?
Yeah, I said they beat themselves. They find a way to lose. And it is concerning that there's no James Robinson today. What a fun story he's been. Probably the best waiver wire pickup, except for Mike Dempsey. I'm sure Mike Dempsey drafted him because he's got that Jaguars.
He's got the inside track. Yeah, that was just stunning. The whole thing was stunning and fun. It's fun to see guys like that who aren't even drafted in the NFL, who. God, he does everything. That catch he made, was it last week? Right in the edge of the... I think it was last week, over the top.
Come on. Yeah.
The guy isn't drafted. He's a running back, and he makes a catch like that for a touchdown. That's just incredible.
Reminds me of Philip Lindsay a few years ago, definitely.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's see if I can hit this tight end button without hitting it twice. There we are.
Sorry for all the noise. My cat is smashing buttons on my calculator.
Oh my gosh. It's calculating
on
Sunday morning.
He's on fire. Yeah, he's adding up all our bets. So tight ends, we talk about this every week. If there is no position more difficult in terms of prop betting, I feel, than the tight ends, just because it's such thin, slim pickings out there. But starting it off with Jordan Akins here, 2.5 at minus 155. I think this is a very decent bet. He's got 8 catches combined in his past 2 games. We only need 3 here. Super soft matchup. This is a nice change of pace, too, because we constantly offer these touchdown bets, which are like coin flips. So it's nice to find a prop here that isn't a touchdown. Good tight end props are hard to come by. I think you really have to like Akins for 3 catches today.
Yeah, that's a pretty good bet. He had 5 catches last week against Indianapolis, going against Cincinnati. I guess the only concern is if something else happens and Cincinnati is such a weak defense that they're going somewhere else. But, yeah, I like that bet. I think that's a good one. He's dropped a few passes, but let's hope he doesn't do that today. And he had a real good game last week, 6 targets and 5 catches. So he's in the right direction. I like this.
Yeah, it felt a little low. And again, at minus 155, there's a reason it's priced that way. But I just went on and on about how boring it is to bet these touchdown props, and then here we are. Harrison Bryant scored just like that. We're back to these tight ends to score. Look, the Browns, we talked about it. They're really not fielding many receivers outside of a guy that they took from the Lions like 2 weeks ago. So I looked at all the tight ends to score a touchdown here. You got Hooper, Njoku, Bryant. They're all in play, of course. Hooper's your favorite at plus 200. Bryant and Njoku, they're both at plus 300. We are rolling the dice. One of these guys are going to score. Bryant hasn't scored since week 7. Now is as good a time as ever to get in the end zone.
Yeah, and obviously he's going to get more opportunities, you would assume, today, with all those receivers being out. And I like this bet. They like this rookie. Obviously Hooper's going to be involved, you would think, but I kind of like this bet. Plus 300, that's a nice number too.
Yeah, we'll take it. It's of course, if Njoku and Hooper score, I'm going to throw my computer out the window. But, I like Harrison Bryant's odds here. And then just moving on to Mark Andrews, who's, one of these players who's like a tight end, with really a wide receiver 1 on his team. He just plays the tight end position. So in this game, the highest receiving yard prop you can get is 48.5. And that's for Mark Andrews and Sterling Shepard. So the book obviously views him as the top receiving threat on the Ravens as well. He is the best pass catcher on the field in this game. He has crushed this line in 4 games straight. I don't know why he's below 50. But if I had like a little hammer here, Emil, I'd be like, we're hammering this one. Like over 48.5. it makes no sense to me, so I'm taking it.
Well, they've been having troubles with just missing catches, just a little long, they've dropped a lot of balls or, tough catches. It's just been a frustrating year for Baltimore, and I'm sure that they couldn't sleep after Miami won that game, because if Miami would have lost last night, they could have just won these last two games against I forget who they're playing. They're playing some poor teams below.
I got the Giants today.
Yeah. So I forget, next week it's I think it's Cincinnati or something. So quite frustrating, but they're a professional team. They know what they're doing. They got to go out and win this game. And the Giants have made it tough on a few teams. So I like this bet. I think he should definitely get over 48.5 catching yardage.
The Giants' defense has been playing much better. They've definitely been playing much, much better, but they tend to leave the middle of the field open, and that's sort of where Mark Andrews makes his money. So I like it. I do like this one.
Yeah, that's a good bet.
And then here's people are going to think I'm a Broncos fan, but I'm not. I'm a Cowboys fan. But again, expecting the big game from Drew Lock, so I have to expect the same from his offense. Noah Fant is a guy I feel like I've just been high on him for quite some time. I love him going back to his rookie season. He was my highest on tight end in my best ball teams. I expected more from him this season, but he's still been pretty solid. He's hit this line in 3 of his past 5 games. I really like these odds. 47.5 yards. We're not asking for a ton here, especially from a guy who gets so many yards after the catch like that does.
He's very important to the Broncos. Fant is. He's been hurt a lot this year. Last week against Buffalo, 11 targets, 8 catches, 68 yards. They're playing against the Chargers at the Chargers, and it's nice to see him, healthy. I'm sure everybody's not perfectly healthy, so I like this bet. I think there's an excellent chance of him getting, 48 yards.
We just need Drew Lock to come through for us today, Emil, and then everything else should fall into place.
I like Drew Lock. I think he's got some style about him that I like. Obviously, still making a lot of mistakes as a second-year player, but I think he's got a lot of potential. He doesn't quit. This team doesn't quit, which I like about it.
Doesn't quit, and I totally respect how much he believes in himself. I think, that's not a stat that you can put on paper. There's things outside of the numbers I look at, and that's one of them. I mean, it's very hard to shake that kid's confidence. And I think that's important to be a quarterback, right?
Yes, definitely.
And then here's our last bet. We're going with Big Bob Tonyan, and I'm only calling him Big Bob Tonyan because I heard Aaron Rodgers refer to him as Big Bob, and I love it. We talk about dart throws, Emil. This is more like a bow and arrow throw. I don't know what you call it. But look, I mean, this isn't actually super, super crazy. So Big Bob has scored in 5 straight, right? Let's say he comes out of the gate and scores in the first quarter. Now you only need one more touchdown out of him. I mean, 2 touchdowns isn't inconceivable. Plus 1050, again, we like this as a scratch-off. We like it as a scratch-off. This is better than going down. We talk about it. This is better than going down to your liquor store and buying a $10 scratch-off. Just bet Bob Tonyan to score twice, and I think you have better odds.
Well, statistically, you're looking at this. He scored 5 straight, like you said. 8 of his games he scored. Week 1 he hardly did anything, but maybe they weren't quite going to him yet. And he scored 3 touchdowns against Atlanta. So he has scored multiple touchdowns. And with that many one-score games, this isn't a crazy bet. And like you said, it's a nice scratch-off, a fun scratch-off. 1050, that sounds pretty like a big number there. That's great.
It's a big payout. I mean, because we talk about this in fantasy a lot. I know a lot of people, a lot of super smart, all respect to the numbers nerds. They'll tell you that a touchdown is not a sticky stat, right? You can't predict a touchdown. Tell that to Devontae Adams, but whatever, right?
Yeah.
So at 2 touchdowns, of course, it's going to be plus 1050 because it's so hard to bet even 1 touchdown. I just don't think it's so crazy for Big Bob Tonyan as we're calling him today. And like I said, Emil, if he scores a touchdown in the first quarter, I'm going to be texting you gasp! Oh my God! we're halfway there. Like, and so it's what I definitely feel good about it.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun bet. I got a couple questions if you've got a minute.
Sure do.
Mike Williams for the Chargers. Is there any props on him today? Because Keenan looks like he's not going to play. He's not expected to play.
Keenan is toast. He is toast. Let's take a look at Mike Williams. Player receiving. Hold, please. No. No, they'll give you Eckler. They'll give you Eckler's receiving yards and his receptions and Melvin Gordon. That's it. That's the only.
Wow. So yeah, I wondered if they would be afraid of that. Because
They're
Williams
so
has had some big games, some really big games. How about let's go for another quirky injury situation. Antonio Gibson for Washington. Is there any props on him?
Let's see. Oh, you mean the Ron Rivera revenge game? that might as well be a pick-up. So no, actually, Emil, there isn't a single player prop being offered on Sugar House in this game. Just touchdowns. If you like Antonio Gibson to score first, you can plus 650. If you like him to score at all, same odds as McKissick, minus 121.
Okay, so they're staying away from that one. I can see why they would do that. Let me see if I can throw one more name at you, if I can think of one here that. That is too bad. I kind of like that situation. Yeah, I'm. That's pretty much. Well, how about Higgins for Cincinnati? Is there anything on him?
T. Higgins. Well, at first when you said Higgins, I thought Richard. I was like, no, Rona.
No,
but no, we're talking about T. Higgins.
He's not there. Yeah, T. Higgins. Sorry.
So we do have some props for Higgins. His receiving line is 55.5, and his receptions are 4.5.
Okay.
Interesting. And then there's a prop within the game, which I actually kind of like, and if we want to have some fun, we could bet it real quick. A player to have the most receiving yards, T. Higgins or Brandon Cooks. Do you think Higgins could have more than Cooks?
Oh, my. That's tough. That would be taking a chance, but it would be a fun one. Because, third-string quarterback. But Cooks is a quirky guy. He can disappear. I don't know if I would do that, but it would be fun to do it. But I don't know if I'd do it. But
well, I'm going to do it, Emil, just because I'm still in the Christmas spirit here.
Yay!
And I'm going to bet T. Higgins to have more than Brandon Cooks. My Christmas nails have still held up. I know that this is the content everyone is here for.
Oh, wow, very nice.
Nails.
Excellent.
Thank
you. And my Fitzpatrick beard is starting to take a fold.
Oh, good Halloween costume.
Since I can't get my hair cut or around this town, so.
I believe it.
I can get my hair cut, but I have to have a face mask on. So it's kind of hard to get your beard cut with a face mask on.
I was going to say, what do they just shave around and then?
That could be a very strange looking beard. Maybe it could be a new style. Oh, okay. I'll give you one more thing here. I know there's not going to be anything, but just for the heck of it, Cleveland wide receiver Marvin Hall. Is there anything on him? And I bet there's not.
Not on Sugar House, but his touchdown prop I think is going to be worth looking at. We should take a look at the line on his touchdown real quick.
Okay.
Or really what the payout is on the touchdown. Sorry, the book is being slow because they're like, get out of here, Jen. You took too much money from us this week.
You have a time limit on your clicks on the site.
Oh, suddenly, hang on. They just gave us some receiving props in this game. Ooh. Let's see. Marvin Hall, over 3.5 catches at plus 138.
Okay.
And his receiving yards is 44.5.
Yeah, those are not easy, but he's the only real receiver, although they can go other places.
Wow, I can't believe they just gave it.
Those aren't horrible.
He's plus 200 to score, so there's action to be had.
Yeah, okay.
Look at this. An hour before kickoff, they give us the
They finally threw something. They finally felt comfortable enough to put something up. Good.
No.
Well, he's a wild card. He hadn't even played for the team. But these are the kind of fun games where you may be able to get an advantage on the book but there's a lot of risk there.
Oh, yeah.
Fun. But I like your Harrison Bryant to score bet. That'll be fun.
Let's hope so.
All righty. Thanks. Thank you so much. Great stuff today. And some fun, risky bets. I love them.
I know. And next week is going to be interesting because we're going to have some of these no-name guys with some starters resting who might have some really wild props. So we might be talking about people where some of us might say, who? What team is he on? So that'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. That is going to be crazy. Week 17 is always a crazy time in DFS and hopefully not in season. Go ahead.
In everything, I mean, this is it. I mean, congratulations, obviously, to everybody who made the fantasy playoffs. But, I mean, this is our last week of, like, normal prop betting. And then we go to this week 17, which some of these games, it's almost going to be like betting the preseason. And then, you know, we get into the playoffs, and these player pools and these prop pools are just going to shrink and shrink and shrink. And then, of course, we'll get to the Super Bowl where we can bet dumb stuff like the national anthem going over or under and, you know, the color of the Gatorade, and that'll be a good one. That'll be fun. So we're getting
Super Bowl prop bets are a crack up.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Good luck. Thank you so much.
Thanks. You too, Emil.